you've come home. I've been here waiting for you. Well, I've been waiting for someone. I guess it might as well be you.
Hello, my little Luxes. Welcome back to my channel, and I am your host, Charcy Lux. And I hope that you are having a splendid day, and we are continuing this new journey on my channel where I am experimenting with voiceovers while I'm working on my art pieces, and we're just being creative and exploring. But this is the first time I'm going to try doing a movie review, or in this one's case, it's kind of a television series that I'm gonna want to try and hit base with all the different episodes in that, but they are technically short films. And I'm going to cover the Masters of Horror series. Now, I apologize if you can hear wind chimes and wind in the background. I have all the windows open and everything, and there is a storm that is going to be brewing tonight. So it is technically, I should say, I'm recording this on May 21st. So if you're in the Midwest area, you know exactly what storm I'm talking about. They're getting prepared for tonight at around 7 p.m. It's supposed to hit. So we'll see how bad it is. But anyway, enough about that. Let's get on with what this episode is about. And like I said, I want to cover talking about the TV series or the movie series known as Masters of Horror. And that was created by Mick Garris, which a lot of people would know Mick Garris through, he had Critters 2, he did the TV series for Freddy's Nightmares, he also did Sleepwalkers with Stephen King. So I was gonna say, I'm a huge fan of Mick Garris and I love his work. So that's how I landed on the series years ago when it first came out back in 2005. And the show went on for a few years. It went from 2005 to 2007. And luckily, it has popped up on Tubi. And we all know how much I love Tubi. It is so amazing to have a free streaming service to watch films on. And yes, it has ads. But you know what? The services that I pay for now, like Hulu and Prime and all those, I am now paying for a service that still makes me watch ads. And in order to not have ads, you have to pay more, which I think is stupid. So the opposite is happening, and I'm getting rid of Hulu. I've gotten rid of so many of my other streaming services. So I'm sticking with Tubi as of for right now. But anyway, I keep getting off topic. Hello, I'm in a good mood today. I had my chiro appointment earlier today. It hurt like hell at the time. I also had my therapy session, so that was really good to have. Since I was in this fantastic mood before the storm, I'm like, I really want to get in talking about the first episode for Masters of Horror. So this is going to be just like all my movie reviews or television show commentaries. Spoiler alert, and viewer discretion is advised. And also with the change in that, I'm not going to give the cast and the crew, even though there's only 5 actors that are in this, but I'm going to post a link. I may or may not put it in the description down below. I have been doing that, but I may change that up. But anyway, so let's get on with this episode and talk about Masters of Horror's first episode, which was Incident on and Off a Mountain Road. And this was by director Don Coscarelli, and everybody should know him from the Phantasm series. So, I mean, I might as well just give the cast and the crew. It's so tiny on this one. So, director and writer was Don Coscarelli, and like I said, we know him for Phantasm. So it didn't surprise me that the man, Angus Scrimm, who was the tall man from Phantasm, he plays the character Buddy in this movie. So we also have Bree Turner as Ellen. We have John DeSantis as Moonface, Ethan Embry as Bruce, and Heather Feeney as Young Woman. So just kidding, I just lied. I did share the cast and the crew on this one. But like I said, there's only 5 of them. So, but there are 2 other writers with Don Coscarelli, and I apologize if I am butchering any of these names. You would think that I would remember how to pronounce some of these names, and the other writers are Stephen Romano and Joe R. Lansdale. And like I said, I am so sorry if I mispronounce anybody's names. I should be so much better at pronouncing Don Coscarelli's name because of how famous he is and how much I love his movies and the Phantasm series. I need to rewatch those again. But anyway, we're not here to talk about those films. We are here to talk about his episode for Incident on and Off of the Mountain Road. And the premises of this show, and like I said, spoiler alerts, I'm going to give this episode away. So if you do not like spoilers at all, please go watch this ahead of time up on Tubi. Like I said, it's for free to watch with ads. So you are focusing on the story of Ellen. And she is driving on this empty road up in the mountains, and she ends up in a car accident. And the reasoning why is because there was this random car that was just parked in the middle of the road, no hazards or anything. And it just so happened at the moment that she was messing with her radio and looking away from the road was when this car was in the middle of the road. So she ends up hitting it and she gets in this accident. Well, in the process of her trying to find the other driver in the parked car, she's trying to explain and apologize what had happened. Well, it just so happened that there is this monstrous man that is holding this woman, this other driver, as a captive. Well, automatically, Ellen runs away to get away from this guy, and he chases after her. Slowly but surely throughout the entire episode, you are getting little flashbacks, and you are learning that Ellen is actually a survivalist. Not by choice, but because of her husband. He was a very enthusiastic survivalist.
That's what'll save you when some wacko wants to put the hurt on you. You act just as crazy as they are, and they don't know what the fuck to do with you.
But as you start slowly going through this episode, you're starting to realize that how much she had picked up from her survivalist husband, and she starts making booby traps. So every time that this monstrous guy tries to get her, she ends up setting up these little traps. She was waiting for this monstrous man to come after her. Well, instead, the woman, the one that was a hostage, who had gotten away as well because the creature man, whatever you want to call him, was chasing after Ellen instead, well, she wanders out and she falls into one of these pit traps that Ellen had created. Well, you slowly start to see that when the bad guy, the monster, when he happens upon Ellen and the woman in the pit, and he realizes that she's being able to set up these traps and everything, he starts kind of being impressed with her. Well, as they typically go, that Ellen keeps trying to get away from this guy. Well, instead of getting away, she ends up going right into his headquarters. She goes right to the place where he is set up and he lives. And of course, it's this house of terror, and it's everybody's worst nightmare thought of, like, if you're in the middle of nowhere and you happen to find the person that is just going to find every worst way possible to torture and kill you. And this is what she has stumbled upon. Well, she ends up getting trapped by this guy because, of course, she's on his property, so she has nowhere to go. Well, he ends up locking her up, and she's in the basement area of this house.
Oh no! Oh my god!
Well, being in the basement of the house, she sees all these other bodies down there, And it just so happened that the woman who had accidentally fallen into Ellen's pit trap, she was tied up in the basement with her. And like I said, there were several bodies down there, and every single one of them are missing their eyes. Well, there's one other character in the basement, and he goes by the name of Buddy.
Hi. I'm Buddy. Not too many come up that road, maybe one a night.
And Buddy is a very strange, enthusiastic character, and he's the only living person that is in this house. But he's also tied up, just like Ellen is. And he starts rambling on all these different things and talking to Ellen. He keeps asking her for candy, and he kind of gives little hints to Ellen saying he must really like you, and he kind of gives these little subtle reasons of, well, he likes people for certain reasons if he's impressed by you. And he's like, well, he's like, you must be special, you must be like me.
Hasn't he killed us?
Reasons? There must be a million reasons.
And that's when you find out that Buddy calls this guy Moonface. And of course he says that he doesn't like being called Moonface.
His face is like the moon. So beautiful. I used to call him Moonface, but he didn't like that for long.
But Moonface comes back and comes into the basement. Well, he grabs the woman that had the injury from the pit trap and puts her up to this machine where he takes out her eyes. But of course this machine will kill the person because it is literally drilling it through their entire head. And Ellen, of course, rightfully so, being petrified, wanting to help this poor woman, and there's nothing she can do because she's tied up, so she just is stuck in this situation. Well, when Moonface leaves, that's when Buddy kind of gives her this hint where he's like, oh, you have something in your shoulder that could help you escape. And earlier, one of her traps, instead of when it went off and hitting Moonface, it accidentally hit her instead. Well, the blade was still in her shoulder. So she's able to remove this blade, and she uses it so that she can maneuver out of her handcuffs and everything. So she's able to finally fight back. So she's able to use everything that she's learned from her survivalist husband and everything, and she takes out Moonface. Well, through this whole entire time, and you're seeing these flashbacks, you're starting to realize that her husband, Bruce, who was this survivalist, kind of became very cult-like. That he was a part of a group that they truly believed that the end of the world was coming, and he was very, very brutal with how he was trying to train Ellen. Like, he was forcing her to do all these things. And there's several red flags that keep showing throughout the flashbacks that are telling you that Bruce isn't a good guy, to the point where it comes to the day where he is literally, I'm going to use terms and just say SA or RAPE because of YouTube. They don't like us using the actual words. But he does this to his wife and beats the crap out of her. Well, because of this, she fights back and she kills Bruce. And that's what you find out at the end here. So she kills off Moonface, obviously because of her learning how to become a survivalist and a fighter and survivor. Well, then she goes back up to her car and goes to the trunk, and then that's where you see the dead body of her husband, Bruce. So she takes him back down to the house and makes it appear like he was another victim of Moonface. So she sets it up so that he looks like just all the other dead bodies. Takes out Buddy as well, but Buddy was not right. Something was not right, and he was helping Moonface in the end anyways. So no loose ends. We know how that goes, especially when you play Dungeons and Dragons. You don't want loose ends. And she leaves. So really interesting story and everything, and I love the little twist at the end, and you kind of knew a little bit of where it was going, but that little bam, right at the end where it's like, oh, okay, so that's why the whole entire time she was worried about getting back to her car. It wasn't about escaping, it was the fear that she needed to take care of the dead body of her husband. So
He might be busy. After all, he has to move those cars miles away to dump them, so that no one can ever find us. Oh, he's so smart.
a really, really awesome first episode to open up for Masters of Horror. My thoughts and recommendations for this, I mean, obviously I'm going to highly recommend it. And like I said, I hope that if you don't like spoilers, that you've seen this episode, and I would love to know, have you seen this before? Like I said, Masters of Horror first came out 2005. It's been out for it's almost been 20 years. That is the weirdest feeling of it, because I remember when this came out and I loved the show and watched every episode, and obviously I've rewatched it several different times. My favorites I have definitely gravitated to and watched several times, and that's why I wanted to do a series where I talked about each individual episode. Yes, I highly recommend this. I love this episode. This is the perfect episode to open up the series. So yes, this is where I'm going to move into just saying, like, I want to know your thoughts on it, and have you watched the entire series as well. One of the other ones I would love to talk about eventually is going to be Fear itself. And I know that several of the people that have done Masters of Horror have also done episodes in Fear itself, so they kind of will go hand in hand. But anyway, hopefully this didn't ramble on too long, but I want to thank you so much for joining me here once again on, well, normally this would be Luxy Charms, but you know what, we're just kind of going with the flow now, that this is all just kind of as one. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this one. And I will have links down below if you are interested in following any of my other social medias. Also a link for my Patreon, and I would greatly love to have you join me on there. Your support definitely helps me to continue working on my art, to continue doing my cosplays, and just being able to be more creative. And on the screen, you can see a shout out to my fellow Patreon members, so thank you so much for joining me on there. And a special shout out to my Ultimate Lux, and that is for Kurt, so thank you so much for joining me on there. And remember, I am the afterlife of the party, but I would always love for you to come and join me in the afterlife of the party. And always remember to slay, subscribe, like, and always be yourself. Because in the end, all we truly have is ourselves. So definitely love yourself for who you are. Until next time, my little Luxes, I hope you have a Luxy Charms kind of day. Bye!